Assalamualaikum and greetings everyone. This week we'll be looking at author's purpose, intended audience, tone, and point of view. These are the learning outcomes. By the end of today's lesson, students should be able to determine author's purpose, intended audience, tone, point of view. I just have to remind you before we begin, this topic is very important, especially when it comes to your number one test and number two, your article assignment. Now, when reading, readers will not only try to understand the content of the reading material, but to also assess author styles of writing. These styles of writing are materialized in the form of author's purpose, or intended audience, or toned and even point of view. Now, author's purpose is basically the intention or reason for writing. Every writer may have their own intention. Why do they want to write this passage? Why do they want to write this article? So basically, in writing, there are four main purposes. The first one is to instruct. As the word instruct suggests, that is to give instructions, to let you know something, to teach you on something. Number two is to inform. So your job is to inform on a topic or an issue. The third one is to entertain. Like when we talk about entertainment, it should contain at least some humors in it, drama, etc. And of course, the last one is to persuade. Now let us look at the first one, to instruct. This is an example of a passage in which the intention or the purpose of writing is to instruct. Next, this is the example of another passage or an excerpt in which the purpose is to inform. The third example is an excerpt that actually talks about to entertain. And the last example is to persuade. If you think that this video is too fast, you can always refer to the lecture notes. These are the few exercises that you can actually do in order for you to understand on the purpose or the intention of writing. Now, once you have known the author's purpose, you may want to know whom the message in the writing is intended for. We'll be looking at intended audience. And when we talk about audience, we are actually referring to the readers. The table on the next slide will help you to determine the intended audience. Now, if the language used in the passage is very general and the content that is in the passage is also general, therefore the intended audience is also for general public. It can just be to anyone. But if the language is general, however the content is specific, then perhaps the intended audience is for people interested in the subject or stakeholders. And of course, the last situation is where you have a specific language and also specific content. Then perhaps the intended audience is subject specialists or experts in the field. Now let's look at the first example. As you read this, you notice that it is actually meant for the language is general, the content is general, therefore this is for anyone, for the public. The second sample depicts that the language is general, However, the content is very focused, that is about healthcare, and intended audience could also be people interested in healthcare. Now, when we talk about people who are interested in healthcare, your answer when the question asks you who is the intended audience should not be in general. You must name few people that are very specific that was or is intended for. For example, now that you have assessed this sample, I'm referring to sample number 2, and you realize that the intended audience is for specific people or people who may have specific or desired interest, like people interested in healthcare. Now think of a group of people who are interested in healthcare. So your answer should be the intended audience is doctors, nurses, public health officers, patients. Those are people who may have interested or who may have interest in healthcare. Let us do some exercises here. Decide on the language, decide on the content, then think of the intended audience. Tone is author's use of words and style of writing to express his or her attitude towards a topic or issue. Possible tones that match their purposes. If the purpose of the passage is to instruct, then the possible tone that you may want to write as the answer is enthusiastic, eager, or passionate. If the purpose is to persuade, it could be angry, anxious, and so on. To inform can be indifferent or objective, or to entertain can be humorous, mocking, or sarcastic. My advice is for you to remember these possible tones, because when the question asks, they may ask you in subjective manner to which you have to provide the answer. Now, the tone can also base on the attitude, the author's attitude. So if the author's attitude is positive, the tone can be concerned, encouraging, so on and so forth. The same thing happens for neutral and negative. Another set of examples. These are few exercises that you can do. Let us move on to point of view. Point of view, I think everyone knows what that means. It's basically the writer's belief or position in an issue or a topic. Hence, the author point of view can be in favor of or against the issue or the topic. So in writing, the author may seem to agree or disagree with the whole issue. Sometimes the author can agree and disagree on the same issue. Below are some questions that you may want to ask when evaluating author's point of view. What is his stand on the issue? Is he in support of the issue? Is he biased or neutral? Is he not in favor of the issue? Now let us study the text below and identify the author's purpose, tone, and bias. This is the suggested answer. That's all. Thank you.